Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Tampa Bay Lightning Throwback 2009 franchise mode here in NHL 23. So in last episode we had the final offseason, and we made quite an abundance of changes to our lineup, especially on the bottom six department. As you can see, this is what our roster is going like into our last season. We did also draft Ola Turnstrom, which hopefully can give us some more scoring, because that's something that we've lacked, is scoring depth. And Ola Turnstrom was drafted by the Tampa Bay Lightning with the second overall pick, just after Nikita Kucherov in this reality. He's just a generated guy, but we took him, and I'm hoping that he could bring some goal scoring that Stamkos has been lacking in a way, because Stamkos obviously has been pretty quiet on the goal scoring department, which in reality he shouldn't be. So I'm hoping that maybe it takes a little bit of pressure off Stamkos and maybe he could start performing. So then you have like Turnstrom, St. Louis, Stamkos, who could all score goals. You got some setup guys like Tanguay, Prospel, Kobasu, that type of thing. So I think this team should definitely be better this season, even with the regression of Prospel, because Prospel being a third liner now kind of gives us a bit more depth at the left wing department. So I think this should be a good season ahead of us, but honestly, who knows? Maybe this game's just going to screw me out of a playoff spot, but we're going to literally simulate the rest of this last season, like the entire regular season at least, and then if we make the playoffs, next episode will be the final playoff push or playoff simulation. And if we don't make the playoffs for some reason, then the final episode will just be a recap of like looking over all these teams and stuff like that, seeing what they're looking like in, I guess, 2012-13, so the lockout shortened season. And yeah, just looking at our player stats, the record book, and seeing who was actually doing well for these teams in this short series. But anyways, before we get into simulating the season, I do have quite a few comments to go over. So the first three are from Michael Dose. The first one says, I like Morrow as head coach, so I went ahead and offered Morrow a coaching gig. Basically, Dimitra right now is our head coach, so what I did is I offered Morrow a role as an assistant coach, and then once he takes that, I'll move him to head coach, and Dimitra will probably get moved down to like an AHL assistant coach or something like that, and then we would be running Morrow and Ben as our two coaches in the NHL. So there is that. Also, Michael says the OBS sounds much better, and I agree. The one thing I have problems with OBS is I realized when I was capturing like some MLB content, which you guys will see in, I guess, the next few days or weeks or whatever it is, there is a little bit of like sometimes like graphical bugs and stuff like that with the video, but other than that, it's not too bad. So OBS is definitely turning out to be my recording software choice instead of my Elgato software. So that way we don't run into any freezing issues halfway through like a season simulation or whatever. And finally, Michael says, Bruno Gervais related to Ricky Gervais, and no, of course not, because the funny thing about Bruno Gervais is he's from Quebec, right? And Ricky Gervais is obviously like the comedian that's like from the UK, so that just wouldn't make any sense, but we could always just kind of come up with a nickname for him in a sense. But yeah, Bruno Gervais is just more of a standard DFD. He wasn't really that great of a player, and he was already out of the league, I believe, by the time he was like 29, 30 years old, something like that. But I'm hoping that he's a pretty good player for us here, or maybe he's going to be like a Ricky Gervais where he kind of brightens up the locker room a bit with like some jokes or something. Who knows? Next 30 comments are from Jared the Rabbit. The first one says it was 1,500 games that Babcock prevented Modano from reaching, not 1,000, and that makes sense because I was thinking when I was reading the comment in the last episode, I thought Modano hit 1,000 games, so I was like kind of confused. But yeah, and thank you for that, Jared. He also says, also Mara played for Tampa once, and we were looking into bringing in Paul Mara, but we didn't end up bringing him in. And also he says that he saw Jamal Mayers went back to the St. Louis Blues, which is interesting because obviously that's where he started his NHL career. I don't want to look super in-depth at teams' lineups at the moment, but let's see. Oh, yeah, he did. So there's Jamal Mayers back in St. Louis, probably to end his career pretty much because he's 37 at this point. The next two comments are from Saturn Otaku. The first one says, kind of weird that Kucherov is a top 5 pick here, like Hedman was IRL, while the lowly defenseman you picked in the third round wears Hedman's 77 and was selected not too far off from where Kucherov was actually picked, which is very interesting, like very bizarre in that sense. Like we drafted who was it? Let's see, unsigned. Oh yeah, it was Prince that we drafted, and yes, he does wear 77, and he plays in Sweden too, which is kind of cool. So Who knows? Maybe this guy would have been like Victor Hedman in a sense from a third round perspective, and then Kucherov is like what Hedman would have been like if we would have gotten Hedman earlier in this franchise mode. But there is that. Also, Saturn Otaku says you should also put Turnstrom on the power play since he's a sniper, and I already went ahead and did that just to save a little bit of time. So Turnstrom is now going to be on the top line. He's also going to be on the second power play unit with Stafford, Kobasu, Mizaros, and St. Louis. And then he's also going to be on the four-man unit with St. Louis, Prospel, and Mizaros. So I think he should have a good spot to pick up a good amount of goals in. And yeah, hopefully he could win like the Calder or something this season. And then the last comment is from Pens Gaming 7, who says, "Damn, NHL 24 out soon. This was a great year for the channel." I appreciate that, man. And he also says, "Also, I would sign the highest rated coach like Apple, make trades at the deadline to go for the playoffs since it's the final season." So we might make some trades in this episode. Really depends on how we're simulating. He was saying to go for Apple as the head coach, which I didn't obviously do that because I just went for the other coach. But we could always try and sign Apple as well, and then see who ends up being the better of the two options, because Apple's just a little bit better. So yeah, maybe we'll offer Apple a contract as well as like an NHL, or not NHL, actually as an NHL goalie coach, give him a lot of money, and then we could just kind of like alternate between the two coaches and see which one ends up working better for us. And obviously Dimitri will get demoted at that point in time. So yeah, let's try and get Apple in as well, because might as well. And yeah, we'll give you a lot of money. I know you don't want to be probably an NHL goalie coach, but we're basically just doing this temporarily so we can see if we could find our best coach possible. Because we'll definitely take a look and see how it impacts our chemistry. Like if it makes us negative in some areas, maybe we don't go with Apple, that type of thing. But let's get through the preseason here a little bit. Doesn't really matter about the preseason record and all that, so I'm not even going to pay really much attention to this. Morrow has accepted, which is nice, and Apple has accepted. Okay, that's perfect. Now we could go ahead here and adjust our coaching staff. So obviously this guy's getting demoted. We do not need him. Let's just go AHL goalie coach. Let's first try Morrow and see how good Morrow is in terms of team fit. 64 it is, right? Okay. Let's take a look at the chemistry and see how it impacts our lineup and see if it makes it any much better. Pretty solid on the top six. Really good on the defensive side of things, which might be a good thing for our team to do because our team is not the best defensive team, or at least the last few years they haven't been. So maybe that's a good coach to go with. How does it impact our power play and stuff? Doesn't really change anything. Okay, that's good. Penalty kill is also looking still pretty good on the chemistry front. Okay, so this coach is definitely not that bad, but is the other coach better? Let's see if there's a little bit of a difference between the two. Because maybe Apple will just be an assistant coach. Maybe he'll end up being our head coach. But let's go back down to NHL assistant for Morrow for temporarily. And we'll go Apple as the head coach and see what he's looking like. We had a +5 and a +3 on our top six. There's a -1 now on the fourth line, which I'm not really sold on. We can't really get rid of it that easily either, unless we put Downey as the third line center instead, which we could hypothetically do, but I don't think I want to do that. It actually makes our defensive core a little bit worse chemistry-wise. Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards the other coach, to be honest. And an Apple could be like an assistant. Also lowers our power play chemistry a little bit too, as you can see a +2 instead of a +5. So, yeah, the other guy is definitely going to be the guy. So we are going to go with Morrow as head coach, Apple as assistant coach, and then Ben will still stay as the associate coach. So we'll go back to goalie coach for a second. We'll go this back to head coach, and an Apple back to assistant. There we go. So there's our coaching staff, these three guys. Hopefully that helps out our team a bit, having a new coaching staff. And hopefully maybe that helps Stamkos turn a new page, because he was obviously not very good with the previous coach. Maybe this coach, he will be good. So anyways, those were the comments I got in last episode. So let's get through this preseason and see what we're looking like. And obviously we're going to get through the entire regular season in this episode. And yeah, maybe we'll make some trades depending on how this team does. Because honestly, I have no idea how we will simulate this season. Because last year I thought our team was going to be a playoff team, and then they just did not do that. So hopefully we could turn the page a little bit. Okay. Let me actually take a look at our roster and see if anybody dropped off after the preseason. No. Does not look like it. I don't think. Yeah, it looks like it. The only one that's kind of dropped a little bit is Heavy Bullen. He's dropped off a lot, but honestly, it's good to have a cheese goalie just in case. So, and we don't really have that other depth forward in the lineup because of the cap. So Tampolini's going to be down there in the AHL for now, but he might get called up at some point, or Carson's even for that matter. Because Carson's would be a cheaper option. Carson's is actually on a two-way deal, so I might be able to call him up and then just keep Tampolini in the AHL for now. Let me see about that. Yeah, I can call him up. Okay. So Martin's Carson's will come up because he's on a two-way deal. And that will at least give us a little bit more depth if we run into injury troubles. It's good that he wanted a two-way deal because that saves some cap space, obviously. So now that way, if we get into injury stuff, we have our two forwards. And one of them can play center, one can play the wing, and then we also have a defenseman. I don't really like scratching Vanen, but it is what it is. I was actually thinking of trading him, wasn't I? Yeah, I was, because we have Adam Party in the AHL. But I think for now, it doesn't really matter. We could just keep it that way. If he's losing morale, I don't think morale's really on anyways. Then we could look into changing him away. But for right now, let's see how this team is going to do. Because we got a long episode ahead of us. This might be one of the longer episodes of the series just because we're getting down to the end of the series pretty much. So let's go to November the 1st and see how we do in our first month. It's a pretty busy first month of action as Bruno Gervais has already been injured with a concussion. That's not great. He's already out till November the 7th. So we already get slapped with an injury to one of our free agent signings. That's not exactly what you want. 2-4 so far. We are not off to the best of starts, but not off to the worst of starts either. We're kind of just like win-loss, win-loss. I'm not liking that too much. Ozzy Vanen and 2-4s for a top 6 forward prospect. See, if I was doing this longer than a year, I'd definitely do something like this. But this is the last season, right? So it doesn't really matter about trading for the future. But 6-8 in our first month. We are not the worst team in our division. But we are definitely not in a playoff scenario right now. St. Louis is doing really well, over point per game. Do I want to make any adjustments yet, or just go another month and then take a look at adjusting things? Goaltending numbers are still not great. It could be the injury also, though, to Gervais that's holding us back a little bit. Let's just do a little swap of Mazaros and Grabeshkov. Because right now, I honestly don't know if we're a good defensive team again. Which I don't understand, because this team looks like they would be good defensively on paper, but they don't simulate that good. Let's go to the 7th so we can get Gervais back into the lineup, because he should be back within the next few days. There's a win. There's another win. Okay, good to see us get back-to-back wins. Always good to get back-to-back. Let's take Vanen out and Gervais back in. There we go. There's another win and an OT loss. 9-8-1. Okay, so now we're starting to click a little bit, it seems like. Let's go to the end of the month and see if we're above 500 at that point. Because if we are, maybe then the team's finally finding its legs. My boys saw 3 straight losses, 4 straight losses, and then we win afterwards to Atlanta. Now we're on a winning streak. Yeah, we're very inconsistent at this stage, but that might be okay. 18-12-1. That's really good. We're now the best team in our division, so hey, we might actually be playoff bound if we continue on this pace. St. Louis at 34 points in 31 games, so the Short King is doing it all right now, but it is a pretty tight top 3 in a way because there's only 5 points separating us, and the Hurricanes, they've also played 4 less games. So the Hurricanes are pretty much the best team in our division at the moment. We've played the most games with the Caps in our division. Let me take a look at the standings quickly. I know it's a little bit early, but I want to take a look and see how the playoff race is shaping up. Even though it's early on, it's best to know if we're in a good spot right now. Yeah, we're 3rd place in the entire Eastern Conference. Mind you, there is like the Rangers who have played less games. The top 2 teams have played less games, the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Buffalo's played less games. Carolina's played less games. Montreal has played less games, and they're only 5 points back. Yikes. So we might not be on the best of pace, but if we continue winning games, then we should be fine. But obviously that could change in an instant. So Let's hope that we can keep our foot on the gas, so to speak. St. Louis dropped off to an 86. Jeez. He is dropping fast, but obviously we want him to retire here, so let's go to the end of this month, and if we're not above 500 at that point, then it's a little bit of a risk. But if we're above 500 and still playing really good and in a playoff spot, I honestly think that we should be a playoff team at that rate, unless we fall off completely in the second half. But there's 2 more wins in a row, then we lose 2 games in a row. See, it's very inconsistent. There's like a 2-game losing streak, and then there's like a multi-game winning streak too. Because now we're on a 3-game losing streak, but will this be a multi-game winning streak now? No. Okay. 24, 17, and 2. Not too bad. St. Louis at 50 points. He might hit 100 points this year, which would be kind of nuts. We look like we're still the 3rd best team in the entire Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look at standings again. Let's see. Yeah, we're still 3rd place in the Eastern Conference, both behind Toronto and Pittsburgh, as we were before. We're at 50 points in 43 games. Carolina's played 40 games. They're 7 points back. Bruins have played more games than us. Devils have played way less games. That's a bit scary, but they could knock out like the Rangers or something like that, or the Sens. Yeah, we're in a good spot. Atlanta's fallen off a cliff after their first round exit last year. Same with Florida. They went to the conference finals last year, but now they're in like dead last almost. So the league definitely changes quite a bit every single season with this, which is kind of weird. Huh. Okay. I think we got to just keep on rolling with this team right now. And obviously by the deadline, we'll take a look at the trade deadline and see who's out there for potential trade options. Just to see if there's anything that we could use to upgrade. If there's nothing, we probably won't make trades. We'll take a look at what the AIs makes for trades, and then we'll simulate the rest of the season at that point. But let's just hope that we can continue winning games, because if we obviously go on a big losing streak, that is going to be problematic. Let's go to the 22nd. Take this month a little bit slower than the last month. Gerbeshkov wasn't injured. We got to win against the Eastern Conference opponents, especially here, if we want to get into the playoffs. So, or teams that are trying to fight to get into the playoffs, I should say, especially. Which we seem to be doing okay at. 28, 21, and 2. It's not the best, flashiest record, but honestly, it's good enough at this stage, which is nice. Yeah, we're still very inconsistent, but that might be a good thing. Because if we dominate, then we're going to be a first-round exit. But if we go back and forth, maybe we'll be a team that could get to the Stanley Cup Finals. 64 points. We are still in lead in our division. We've only played 4 more games than the Thrashers, but we're 13 points up on them. Like, Cavalier is also over point per game, so that top line must be doing well with Tarnstrom. I'm excited to see what Tarnstrom's stats are looking like when we get to the end of the season. Let's see what we got here. We are now down to 5th place in the Eastern Conference, but we are tied with the Rangers and Canadiens, but we've played 4 more games than them. Interesting. 64 points. Let's see. So you've played a little bit less than us, but you're 10 points back, or 8 points back, I should say. We might be in a pretty good spot. We just need to make sure we don't lose to these teams that are fighting to get into the playoffs. So that being Ottawa, the Islanders, Boston, Florida, the Devils, the Thrashers, and the Flyers. Well, the Flyers are way out of it, actually, so the Flyers don't really matter. It's just more 9 to 14 that matter. So, hopefully we could beat those teams when we play them. Okay, so there is that. Let's continue simulating a little bit. Don't really feel like making any trades yet, so I think I might wait till the deadline to make my decision on trades. So let's go to the 14th. Take it a little bit slower at this point, because obviously this is the crucial stage of the season. Krejcik has been injured. That's not great, but we'll go replace player because that'll get Ozzy back in. We lose 2 straight games after that. And now Krejcik is back. That's good. So Krejcik will come in here. There we go. Hopefully the goaltending numbers are improving. There's 3 straight losses. That's not ideal. We are still the best in our division. We've played 4 less games now than the Panthers. The Panthers have really kind of rallied back in a sense, because we just said they were one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. They're only 1 point back of us now, but they have played 4 more games. So that is kind of interesting. The standings really changed quite a bit during the season, it seems like. Like if we go Eastern Conference right now, Florida's in the 8th spot right now. They are in a playoff spot all of a sudden. That means they might win the Stanley Cup this year based on this rally. So you are 4 points back of us. You have 3 games in hand. Yikes. So Carolina's kind of catching up. The Caps are not really in that spot because they're 2 games up on us. Ottawa's also fighting to get in. So yeah, it's Ottawa and Carolina I feel like we need to worry about the most. Also the Devils maybe too, because they've only played 57. Yeah, it's probably those 3 teams especially that we'd want to win against. I don't like that we're going on a little bit of a slide here all of a sudden, but let's continue assimilating. I can make some line adjustments, but honestly at this stage, might as well not. Let's do another week and see if we win some games here. There's a shootout loss, another loss, and that was against the worst team in the division, or in the league actually almost. But then we beat Boston and lost to Ottawa, so Ottawa's trying to catch up to us drastically here. We have fallen to second as the Panthers are now first place in the Southeast. Let's go ahead and make some defensive adjustments, or maybe adjustments to our bottom 6. Let's just swap Smithson and Gotch for something random. Klein and Gervais, we'll swap you two as well. Yeah, we'll keep the rest of that the same. Tarnstrom's jumped to an 80, so he must be having a good season. He must be. Let me take a look at the playoff race again. I know I keep taking a look at this a lot more, but with this type of series, you have to obviously take a look at it a lot more frequently. Because look at that. All of a sudden, we're like literally the 7th seeded team. But that is very close between us and the Rangers because we're literally 8 points back of them. We have more games played, but it's going to be a fight to the finish pretty much at this rate. Yeah, oh my goodness, that's not good. Carolina's at 69 points in 61 games. We are at 71 in 65. So we played 4 more games than the Canes, but we're only up by 2 points. Washington is the team, though, that's probably going to get knocked out. But the Islanders are cruising back into this race as well. And then you have the Sens. The Devils are kind of falling off a little bit. And then you have Boston, Atlanta, Philadelphia more than likely won't make the playoffs at this rate. But those other teams, we got to worry about quite a bit. So that's not great. Maybe I'll make some adjustments. I just don't know where. Let me see. Is there any other forward adjustments I want to make in this lineup? Let's swap D'Agostini to the left side and Downey to the right side. I don't really know. And then we might just run with the rest. Actually, let's go Stafford into the top 6 and Kobasu down on the 3rd line. We'll try that for something different. I don't know how Kobasu's been, but I just want to find something that gets this team being back on the winning side of things because we're kind of falling off a little bit. Obviously, like I said, we could make still some deadline deals potentially, depending on what's out there to help push us into that playoff spot. There's another loss and a win over Washington. That win over Washington's pretty big because Washington's the other team that's trying to like fight with us almost in our division. Let's take a look here again. We are falling off quite a bit. And yeah, we're not even in a playoff spot now. Yikes. Oh my goodness. We have 2 games in hand on the Caps, so that's huge. But we are 2 points back of them, or 1 point back of them. Carolina's also fighting for this playoff spot. They have 4 less games played than us. We need to have a really good little bit here. Florida's played 3 more games than us, though, and they're only 2 points up. So I think our deadline deals will impact us drastically on how we play the rest of the season. So I think we might need to make some sort of a change. I just don't really know what it is. It's kind of crazy that we're at the deadline and there's teams that have played 70 games already, though. Or only one team, and that's the Florida Panthers, I should say. I don't really want to take a look at player stats to see who's underperforming, so we'll probably just enter the trade deadline and see if there's anything really intriguing out there. So let's go in as a buyer and see if we see anything that could potentially help us into the playoffs. Voracek is an RFA at the moment, so that's not going to help us. Kennedy's an RFA, that's not going to help us. What else we got here? Mike Fisher on 2 years left. I don't really have a lot of cap room as well. That's my only problem. Manny Malhotra's getting drastically overpaid. Like, see, I want to make trades, but I don't have the cap space really to bring in somebody. Toby Enstrom would be great. What does Atlanta want for Toby Enstrom? As Columbus has already made a trade. Let's go to the Atlanta Thrashers. What do they want for Toby Enstrom? No trades found. Gotta be kidding me. Because Toby Enstrom would be probably what I would want the most, but he's more of an offensive guy, I feel like. Let's see. Toby Enstrom is what they want. We'd have to give up a defenseman for sure. Or multiple. Toby Enstrom, what if I gave you... trying to think. It'd have to be one of our top defenders. I could give Bruno Gervais as a starting piece because Bruno Gervais is making around the same cap hit. But then I'd also have to give up, like... they do want our first round pick. I have multiple thirds. I can give you literally like 3 thirds. You know what? That might go through on its own. Will we be cap compliant if that works? We should be. Let's see if this works. So Gervais and 3 third rounders for Toby Enstrom. Am I going to cheese him out of Toby Enstrom? No. No, I am not. Okay. They're smarter than that. Let's go to Skaters Matching Block. They do like that top 4 defenseman we drafted. I honestly am okay with adding him because we don't really need him because we're not obviously going to be doing another season in this. So, Gervais and Clifford for Toby Enstrom. That's rejected, huh? What if I added in one of the third rounders or multiple third rounders? Let's see if this works. That's accepted. So there you go. That's going to be our trade for the deadline. Bringing in Toby Enstrom. We give up a third rounder, a prospect, and Bruno Gervais. I don't know if Bruno Gervais was doing good here, but I think Toby Enstrom is a major upgrade for our top 4. And hopefully that gets us into a playoff spot, because if it doesn't, then it doesn't really do much. But I like that trade a lot, I think. Because now, if we look at our defensive core, bringing in somebody like Bruno Gervais, or not Bruno Gervais, Toby Enstrom. Toby Enstrom's now our best defenseman. And he signed for 1 extra season. Now we have a legit top 4. We have a legit top 6. I still have a lot of extra defensemen, though. I could trade Vannanen still here to free up more cap space. Let me try and trade Vannanen away. If we can't really get anything for Vannanen, maybe I'll just hold on to him. Like, it's not necessary that I trade him away. Unless I want to go with Adam Party instead. No trades are found. What about Vannanen? There is teams that want Vannanen, and it's Anaheim. It's not really much that I can get for him at this stage that's going to help us out right now. It's always just prospects. I think I might as well just hold on to him for the year to help us out with the depth defensive pool. Party doesn't really matter too much, so I think that's going to be our only trade we're going to make here at the deadline was for Toby Enstrom. I think he should bring some good offense from our back end and hopefully some good defensive plays. So that is our only trade we're going to do. And we're going to hope that helps out our defensive core. So let's go ahead here and edit lines. And of course it readjusted my lines. I hate when it does that. Let's go back to the lines we had, which were... Pouliot was out of the lineup. We need to make sure Turnstrom's back on the power play as well. I hate how it does that. It's so friggin' annoying. We actually had Downey on the right side, D'Agostini on the left. Defensively, we could go with something that looks like this. Actually, we'll go with Niskanen up there. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then we'll go back to our power play lines and make sure this is set up properly. Which the only change that needs to happen here was I was putting Turnstrom at center here because he could win faceoffs anyways. And we'll get him into the second unit as well because he needs to have power play time to help us with our depth scoring. There we go. So there is our team for the rest of the season. The addition of Enstrom to hopefully help us push into a playoff spot and secure that playoff spot. I think it should help us out, but who knows, honestly. So there's that. Let's take a look at the other trades that happened at the deadline this year in 2011-12, I guess we're in, right? I think I said that. So let's see. Edmonton acquires a second-round pick as Boyd Gordon gets shipped to the Calgary Flames. Interesting. Thomas Kopecky, our former player that we lost in the offseason, goes to the San Jose Sharks with a 5th-rounder for Steve Montador. Dallas gets Volchenkov and Fleischman from Florida for 2 second-round picks. And then... Oh, wait, yeah, there's... Actually, Bruno Gervais got dealt multiple times at the deadline. We traded him to Atlanta, and Atlanta immediately flipped him. So they flip him and Brendan Bell to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2nd and 3rd-rounder. St. Louis gets 2 prospects for Barrett Jackman, who gets to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's a good addition on the blue line for the Leafs for sure. Carolina gets Stefan Robidas, a 3rd-rounder from the Dallas Stars for a 2nd. Jordan Binnington got dealt and Niittymaki. Damn. So Dallas got a couple goalies, one a backup and one a prospect. We got Toby Enstrom for Gervais and the defensive prospect in a 3rd. So Atlanta got quite a bit moving Gervais as well. Detroit acquired Ryan Suter and Steve Bejan from Nashville for only a 2nd and a 3rd. So that's a pretty big addition there for the Detroit Red Wings, getting Ryan Suter. That's a pretty low asking price. Anaheim gets a 2nd, Radek Bonk and Curtis Sanford for a 2nd, and Dennis Seidenberg, who go to Calgary. Boston gets 2 third-round picks and Matt Walker from Ottawa for a 2nd, a 3rd, and a prospect. Columbus gets Aaron Johnson, Mike Greer, and Jarkko Ruutu. Aaron Johnson going back to Columbus again for a 2nd-rounder, a 3rd-rounder, and a prospect. So not a lot of deadline deals this year. Nothing that's really huge, except for I'd say our trade's pretty huge. The Ryan Suter one's pretty big. Robidas and Jackman are decently big as well, but not the busiest deadline we've seen in this franchise mode. So probably because a lot of teams are like cap constraint, my guess. But let's get through the rest of the season and see what happens. We are trying to get into the playoffs. Will Enstrom be able to help push us into that spot? Because if he can't, that's going to be pretty problematic. But let's go a week at a time, or 2 weeks at a time. We need to win these type of games. If we beat the Devils 1-0, that's big. And, ooh, I didn't realize it was going to be that long-term of an injury when I saw the pop-up. So Marcel Gottsch has been injured with a separated shoulder out till May the 9th. That's a pretty big loss for the bottom 6. So he will be missing some playoff time because of that. Brent Cron is on waivers. Former 9th overall pick of the Calgary Flames back in 2000. It's funny. Oh, now Tanguay has been injured with a mild concussion. We are getting slapped with injuries at the worst time possible, but we're still winning games, which is huge. At least Tanguay will be back for the playoffs if we get there. And we're now all of a sudden 1st place in our division because we have played the 2nd least amount of games, or 3rd least amount of games. That's good. So we're fighting to get into the playoffs here. Let's go another week, and hopefully this Tanguay injury doesn't screw us out of things. We got 2 games against Florida. Those are pretty huge. Those are pretty huge. Good rivalry games. We lose the first one. We lose there, we win there, and we win there. Okay, still very inconsistent, but we are looking pretty solid here. I think we might get into the playoffs. We have 6 games to go. So let's take a look at the standings here quickly again. See what the race is looking like. We're in the 8th spot right now at 85 points. The Sens are only a point back. Same with the Florida Panthers. And we have games in hand on Florida, but we have one more game played than the Sens. That might come back to cost us. We could also pass to the Rangers. Then you also have the Caps, the Sabres, and the Islanders who we could pass to. So this is a pretty big race here between 4 and 10. Only 3 points separate these teams. Jeez. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be this type of race right down to the wire. Like, with only 6 games to go, we need to make sure that we can win at least like 4 or 5 of these games, because any loss is very detrimental at this point. We got 3 games this weekend, and we have a full week off before our final 3 games of the season. That's kind of weird. Let's do 2 games at a time here. Come on, boys. Tanguay is back. That's huge timing, because we need him obviously in the lineup to hopefully give us some offense. It's weird. There was an even 0 here in chemistry, and then adding Tanguay just added a +5 to it. It's kind of nuts. There's a win and a loss. Okay. I mean, it's at least we got a win, but we're still winning our division. We have 1 game less played than the Caps. Panthers are right there. Hurricanes are right there. This is going to be nuts, because we're down to our final 4 games of the season now. And we are still in the 7th spot. We could still hop up to like 4th place. And if we get 4th place, we'd have home ice advantage. If we finish 5 or below that, we don't. This is a crazy race right now. But the teams that are outside of the playoffs, Florida is one of them, has played more games than us. Ottawa has like 3 less games played than us. So that's the one that worries me the most. Also, the Devils could knock out people out of the playoffs too. Carolina is also kind of in that boat, but everybody else is not much of a threat at all. It has already been eliminated, so will this setup will kind of come back to bite us? And since we have a week off in between our 3 games, I feel like that might not be good for us. Enstrom was never injured. 5-0 loss to the Oilers. That's a big loss. That's a big loss, especially with those teams that are trying to fight to get in. I guess during this off week, we're going to be able to find out if we're actually still in the playoffs. But let's see. This might be going to come down to these last 5 games. Oh, we fell off a little bit because that bye week. A lot of teams have played 82 games now. Florida's played 82 games and the Caps. Florida's only 2 points up on us. Only 2 points up on us. And we have 2 more games, or we have more games to play. 3 more games to play. So we should be able to easily knock Florida out. Carolina is still behind us, and they only have 1 game left. So that's kind of massive for us. Let me see. Yeah, because at the moment we're not in a playoff spot. If we are able to pass Florida, we'll hop into that playoff spot. Ottawa's also at the same amount of games played as us, and they're up by us by a point on us. So Buffalo, the Rangers, who we play in the last game of the season, it honestly could come down to game 82 if we make it. Oh man, this is scary. This is scary. We need to win these games. We might as well hop into them via Sim Engine instead. So since these are games they're must win, this should be an easy win for our team, hypothetically. You know what? Maybe I won't slow sim this game yet. Because we should be able to beat Philadelphia. They're not a good team. Can we do it to help us with the playoff race? Yes, we can. That's a massive win there. I think that knocks Florida out of the playoff race because now they've played all 82 games and they are below us in the standings, which means we should be in a playoff spot at the moment, but not secured. There is no playoff team that's really clinched except for the top 2 teams here in the East. Yeah, we're in the 8th spot right now. So Florida's been knocked out officially. Ottawa is still up there that could get in. We are very close to also knocking out Buffalo. Well, Buffalo's close to knocking us out. And then the Islanders are there too. Holy crap, this is such a close race. I don't think I've ever seen this type of a close race before, but it probably was like this IRL. I don't even remember. Let's see what we're looking like standings-wise here. Did Ottawa play a game yet? Let's see, did Ottawa play? They did, and they won. And they also played Philly. Oh, boy. That's not good. That's not good. We got to win here in Calgary here, boys. This is a big game. Calgary's another team that's been struggling this year. Can we win it? Can we win it? No, we can't. 8-5 regulation loss. Did that knock us out of the playoffs officially? Because there's a chance that it could have. Ottawa's clinched a playoff spot, and oh no, we can't make the playoffs. Well, we can actually. The only way we make the playoffs is if we beat the Rangers in game 82. And Buffalo loses their game in game 82. I wish I could see who they're playing right now, but I can't. The Devils also could hypothetically jump into the playoffs, I think. Unless their ROW is too low. Yeah, we could technically jump in to the playoffs, but we need Buffalo to lose. If Buffalo doesn't lose, we're out of the playoffs because of that 8-5 loss to the Calgary Flames. Oh man, did it really have to come down to this? Let's hope that we win, and let's hope that Buffalo loses. I wish I knew how they played, because then I would kind of feel safer knowing who they're playing. But because even if we win this game, it might not mean anything. So here we go, real-time simulation, because it's game 82. We win this, we might make the playoffs. We lose this, we have no chance of making the playoffs. Come on, boys. Le Cavalier opens the scoring. Prospel scores right afterwards. That's a huge start for our offenses. Bobrovsky, I don't know who that guy is, for the Rangers score. Some generated prospect. Of course, we have Yaroslav Halak, who's now actually a Ranger, was a Ranger last season. Lecavalier makes it 3-1 late. That's huge. We're off to a good start here in this game, but obviously, like I said, we need Buffalo to lose. Like, I might be happy that we win this game, but also if we lose this, or not lose this, if Buffalo wins their game, it will be a big slap to the face, just barely missing. Because we should be a playoff team at this type of team, but we might honestly fall just short. Let's see. Oh boy, Callahan pulls the Rangers within one. Former Tampa Bay Lightning will in this series. I guess he would never played for Tampa Bay, because we held on to St. Louis and whatnot a little bit longer. Power play for us, and they got a short-handed goal, and it's Callahan as well. God damn it, Ryan Callahan. We need 2 points. We can't just have 1 point, because if we only just have 1 point, it won't help. It won't help. We need 2 points. So we are going to intervene and watch this overtime. I know it's regular season, but since this is the final season simulation episode, and this might be the final time we get to actually see these guys in action, might as well. So we'll intervene here and watch overtime and see if we can find a way to win this last regular season game. And then we'll have to find out if Buffalo won as well or not. So hopefully we can win here in overtime. I know a lot of players in this series have X factors, so just ignore all the X factor things above people's head. But let's see if we can get the win here. It's 4-on-4 overtime. Remember, it's not 3-on-3, because back in these days there's no such thing as 3-on-3. Even though 2012, I guess, wasn't that long ago. But oh boy, Lecavalier is up there in the hit leaders apparently, just behind David Backes. But this is a must-win game. Come on, boys. We need 2 points. We can't just go for the 1 point. We need 2. Which means maybe winning in a shootout or winning here in overtime. It feels weird watching a regular season game, but it's kind of cool to watch my rosters and we get to at least see like Toby Enstrom in action. And why was Halak so much off the net there? And he's wearing 42 in this, which is kind of weird. But Halak was so much off the net. I don't know how he made the save on that, because I think he left a wide open side. Jeez. Victor Kozlov is a Ranger. It's kind of weird. What the heck? Stamkos already has the A on this team, which is kind of nuts too. Come on, Stamkos. Can't win it. Stewart, a shot. It's blocked. Come on, get it out. Nicely done. Here comes Stamkos. Trying to get us into the playoffs, potentially. Dubinsky gets creamed by Lecavalier. Jesus. Cavalier likes to hit, and there's a good hit by Krejcik, but he can't get the puck. Udler gets crunched again. Oh my goodness, the hits. Toby Enstrom. Steven Stamkos. Over to St. Louis. A shot, and that's stopped by Lundqvist. Yeah, it's going to be hard to score on Lundqvist. That's the problem, is we have Jaro Halak and they have Henrik Lundqvist. Is that Roosevelt in New York now too? Did he go back to New York? I think that's Roosevelt. Or was he already in New York to start the series? He might have been. I don't remember, to be honest. I think he was, but I could be wrong. Ryan Callahan now. Get away, boys. Nice save there by Halak. St. Louis with it. Come on, Marty. Seeing him with his yellow stick is pretty cool. Enstrom jumps up, but he can't get anything going. Enstrom gets it back. Enstrom to Prospol. Ah, that was a floater. It's in. It's in. The big goal from Vakov Prospol. We win our last game of the season, but will it be enough? Will it be enough? A floater that somehow found its way past Lundqvist. Vakov Prospol. Is Tampa going to the playoffs, or are they not? Because we have the default by ROW, but Buffalo gets even 1 point. We are not in the playoffs. But Toby Enstrom, what a pass. He picked up 2 assists in this crucial game. And that was a weird floating puck. I don't even know how that got in. I got to take a look at that. But that was fun to watch a little bit of action, since we haven't done that yet in the series. But let me take a look at the game-winning goal. So Prospol spins off of this. He throws a floater towards the net that bounces off the stick of, I believe that's Mark Stewart. Mike. Mike is his brother. And it goes off the stick of Lundqvist, goes back into the pads, and then he goes to cover it, and he ends up knocking it back into his own net. Talk about crazy luck, but it helps us hopefully get into the playoffs. What's kind of annoying is the pads and stuff like that. I customized these, but the game still decides to put generic colors on them. I have to mention that to EA still. But huge performance from Prospol with 2 goals in this game. gets us potentially into a playoff spot. We'll see. Did Buffalo win their last game of the year? That's all we really want to know at this stage. Did Buffalo win as well? And they did, I think. Did they? I don't know. I don't know if they played yet. Because there's still a couple days left. Let's see. Did they win? They didn't play their game yet. So we got to find out another day. Let's advance and see. If we see that X next to our name, we know we clinched. Hasn't happened yet, which means there's a higher chance. Actually, Buffalo didn't even play, did they? So they might have another day before we find out. Let's see. Buffalo has not played yet. If Buffalo loses their last game, that would be huge. I don't know who they're playing, but we need them to lose. Please. Oh, they won. They won 6-5. I just saw it on the top. They won 6-5 over the Rangers. So they also played the New York Rangers in our last game. But they decided since we beat them, they were like, nah. And we have missed the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that's official. Here in this last season. Which kind of sucks. Because, yeah, we missed the playoffs because Buffalo clinches. And we only finished 1 point back of the Ottawa Senators, who have one more game left. But we are that close to getting into the playoffs, and we just fall short. Oh, well, that sucks. That sucks a lot. Next episode, we'll have to see the retirements in next episode. Actually, we'll see the retirements and stuff in this episode just to make it a little bit cooler. But next episode, obviously, we'll take a look at stats around the entire league and all that. And do like a fun little recap on looking at what teams are looking like. Actually, maybe we won't do retirements yet because I kind of want to take a look at every team's roster view of the view line screen. So next episode, we'll take a look at the awards, the view line screen for every team. We'll take a look at like records and stuff like that as well. And I think that'll probably be it at that point. But we'll wrap up this regular season anyways. We just missed out even though we were the second best team in the Southeast. Damn, man, that sucks. Only the Washington Capitals make it from our division. We had the exact same amount of wins as the Caps, but we finished 2 points back of them, and that's the difference. That is the difference. Who else made the playoffs? Here we got Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and Buffalo all made it from the Northeast. So if the Northeast wasn't as good as it was, we would have made the playoffs. And then from the Atlantic, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and Rangers make it. And then the Devils missed out. The Rangers were a team that were in a playoff spot too, and they decided to lose the last game to a team that just made it in. God damn, man. Of course, Devils missed with 89 as well. So your entire Eastern Conference, actually we'll go with Pacific and West too. Phoenix won the Pacific, Dallas made the playoffs, and LA did as well. San Jose missed the playoffs. That's kind of a surprise because they've been to 2 finals already in the series. And Anaheim was dead last. Northwest Division, Vancouver and Minnesota make it. Edmonton, Colorado, and Calgary miss. And Central Division-wise, the Red Wings make it, Columbus, and St. Louis. Chicago has missed the playoffs again. I don't know why Chicago is doing so bad in this universe, but oh well. And Nashville did too. So, if I'm right, the Eastern Conference should be Montreal, Buffalo, Toronto, Washington in the playoffs, Pittsburgh, and Ottawa, and in the Battle of New York. Interesting. While the Western Conference should be Vancouver, LA, Minnesota, St. Louis, Phoenix, Columbus, and Detroit, Dallas. Okay. Man, it sucks missing the playoffs. But I think we made a good push anyways. Enstrom was the right addition. It just fell us a little bit short. We were not the best offensive team in the league, and not even close to it. We were kind of around mid-table, it seems like, at 3.11. Goals against per game wise, kind of around mid-table. So we were kind of like an average team, but we almost made it still. Yeah, 3.06 ain't great. Power play percentage wise, we were not very good either. Yeah, it seems like we're a lot of average stats, but we almost made it, so. Yeah. Not really sold on a lot of stats. We did have, didn't we have a lot of shorthanded goals, did it say, or no? Or maybe I was just blind. Yeah, maybe I thought I saw we had a lot of shorthanded goals. Only 3. 20-21 on home ice, 24-15-2 on the road. 5-5 in our last 10 games. Not enough. Let's take a look at our player stats for the season. Let's see. So, LeCavalier had 88 points, 53 goals, but not enough to get us into a playoff spot. Stamkos started to finally break out. 25 goals for 53 points. I like it. He actually started to pick it up here in the last year. Gosh, 22 points, minus 11. Was injured pretty early on. Maybe that injury forced us to miss the playoffs. Jared Smithson, 14 points. Pouliot, 4 points in 13 games. Left wing wise, Tanguay had 66 points, pretty solid. Prospel had 46, and the rookie Turnstrom had 43. Not too bad from Ola Turnstrom. I like it. If we would have went more than one more year, he probably could have been very helpful in getting us into the playoffs. St. Louis, 82 points is pretty solid for his age. Stafford had 47, Kopasu 42, D'Agostini 21. A lot of the plus minus on the bottom six isn't great still. Downey 15 points and Carson's 1 goal. Defensively, Grabeshkov had 58 points, so he was a great addition for the blue line, but it didn't help out him, unfortunately. Mazzaros had 42 points, so started to pick up more offense. Toby Enstrom only had 23 points. How much did he have with us? Only 6. I expected him to have a little bit more of an offensive boost, but he didn't. Niskanen, 19 points plus 14 is really solid. Krejcek was okay as well. Yeah, I don't really know what the plus-minus issue is with this team, especially on the offensive front. And goaltending from Halak was actually pretty good. Yaroslav Halak was probably our best goalie we had in the series, but Heavy Bullen dropped the ball as a backup, which is unfortunate. So there is that. Let's take a look at stats around the league as well. So who is the best forward? Ovechkin with 111. Jeez. Datsuk 106. Crosby, Backstrom, Zetterberg all over 100 as well. And yeah, Ovechkin's going to win the Richard this year with 68 goals, which was almost 10 more than Gabrick. God damn. Best defenseman this year. Andrei Markov with 78, so it looks like he's going to win another Norris. Chris Campoli finished second. That's kind of weird. Brian Campbell up there. Dennis Weidman. Some interesting defenders up there. Goalie-wise, Nick Backstrom was the best in terms of win. Jay Shigeru actually was tied with him. Most shutouts by a starter was Halak for us, but he missed the playoffs. Best save percentage by a starter, Jay Shigeru with 923. And the best goals against average was Shigeru as well. So it looks like Jay Shigeru is going to be your Vezina winner, which is kind of weird. Tim Thomas was his backup in Vancouver. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. Oh, I wonder how Canucks fans are going to feel about that, seeing Tim Thomas as a Vancouver Canuck. Because this is 2011-12, so this would have been the year after he would have just beaten them in the Cup Finals. What the heck? I can't wait to look through every team's roster in next episode for the final episode. But yeah, if there's anything specific you guys want me to show for next episode, let me know, because I could obviously get to that. But best rookie this year was Johnny Gaudreau in points, but Kucherov right behind him. He's up to an 86 now. Tarnstrom finished third. Pretty solid, and he had the best plus-minus out of a bunch of those guys. Kuznetsov was a rookie this year as well for Atlanta. Nugent Hopkins, Landeskog. Pretty good year for rookies. Scheifele was there in Vancouver too. So there is that. And that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Tampa Bay Lightning Throwback 2009 franchise mode. So next episode will be the final episode of the series, because NHL 24 is literally right around the corner. We'll basically see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in this last season. We'll take a look at every single team's roster just to see what teams were looking like going into the lockout shortened season, so to speak. We'll also take a look at the record book, and yeah, if there's anything else you want me to take a look at, I'll definitely do that in that episode as well. So let me think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.